So today I'm making a brown lentil. Here are the beans. They've been soaked overnight, and so they've kind of gotten bigger, double their size. So this is 2 cups of dried beans that I added water enough so that the water was sort of above the level of the beans, because they are going to absorb the water and get fuller. I have over here ginger garlic paste that you can get at any Indian store. And then this is just plain tomato sauce from, the canned tomato sauce. And I have garam masala over here. Down here is my spice box, Indian spice box, and I have turmeric powder, Kashmiri red chili powder, coriander powder, cumin seed, and those are mustard seeds and fenugreek seeds. So we're only going to use turmeric, salt, coriander powder, and the cumin seeds today, and just a pinch of this. I don't use a lot of this because it's really spicy and my kids really enjoy eating this. So here on the stove, I'm cooking and sauteing in light olive oil. I have onions, diced onions, and I threw in, first I put the oil in there, got it really nice and hot. Then I added the cumin seeds, just a pinch of the cumin seeds, and then I immediately added the onions, and I'm going to saute them until they're nice golden brown, a little bit darker than a golden brown color. So you can see some of them are already browning. Let me put this light on, maybe this will be better. Is that better? Kind of changing the color there. But anyway, not just caramelized like is the case in most American cooking, but a little bit darker than that. So while this is going, this is something that's really great staple. You can add it, you can eat it on top of white rice, basmati white rice, which you can again get at any Indian store. The white rice, the long grain white rice that you get at the American grocery stores is okay, but it's not really Indian grade. You wouldn't find that in any, traditional Indian home. So if you really want good rice at a really great price, I would recommend go to an Indian store and get, a bag of long grain basmati rice. And basmati rice, you want it to be fluffy, and the grain, each individual grain should stand out so it doesn't get too soggy. Okay, so my onions are great, and I'll cut back to the rice in a second, but now I'm going to add, this ginger garlic paste and the tomato sauce. So here we go. Here's a teaspoon, kind of a teaspoon of ginger garlic paste going into the pan, and then I'm going to take this sauce and pour in probably about half a cup worth, maybe. And anyway, so stir. Get it all nicely mixed. Oh, I have this on high, but I'm going to reduce it down a little bit now to medium high. I did the onions on high so that they would cook faster, but you can only do that if you're going to stand right over the stove and keep stirring, otherwise your onions will burn. So get this nicely stirred in together, and then we're going to grab the spice box, and here we go. So this is a little teaspoon that you normally get with the spice box. You could probably just use, let's see if I can do my measurements right. This is salt, and I prefer to use coarse salt or kosher salt just because I prefer the flavor. I'm going to use that much of turmeric powder. I would say half a teaspoon would be a good estimate. Now, the coriander powder is what adds your flavor, so we're going to heap that. I have 2 cups of dal, so I'm going to use 3 heaping spoonfuls of this. So I would say maybe 2 teaspoons of coriander powder. I'm actually going to add a little bit more of that here. So don't feel shy about the coriander powder. You can't really mess up the flavor with coriander powder. It'll just intensify the Indian flavors. So I'm mixing, and I want to add a little bit of the chili powder just because I want my kids to get a little bit comfortable with spice and not always be, easy with bland foods. So I'm going to stir this in, and the key here is to really let the flavors marinate. I haven't added the garam masala yet. I won't do that until much later. And notice that there's no use of curry. Curry is not a spice in Indian cuisine. It's a generic word for the term gravy. So curry powder is a no-no. So I'm adding a little bit of water just to kind of, maybe not even a quarter cup, just an eighth of a cup of water, or just sort of by observation, just kind of to use your own judgment, just to get all of this nicely mixed together. And you want to really let this saute well to get a nice rich orange-brown color. So to recap, at the moment all we have in here is onions that have been sauteed, and look, you can barely see the onions anymore. Onions, diced onions is a staple in all Northern Indian cooking, I should add. The kind of cooking that you mostly find in restaurants, unless they're a South Indian restaurant. And diced onions just starts, the most bases, basically. And you want to saute it down to such a degree that you don't taste onion, or you don't crunch an onion, which is why it's so important to cook it as much as we did. So, let's see, while this is sauteing, back to the basmati rice. So you want really long grains. So if you're using 1 measure cup of rice in a rice cooker, dry rice, then I would say 1.5 to 1 3/4 cups of water. Typically rice calls for double the amount of water, but that gets it to be a little bit more soggy. And rice cooker, by the way, is the absolute best way. If you're interested in knowing how to do it with just a pan, I can show you how to do that. Just send me a message and I will get that to you, that information. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way this looks, and that's smelling pretty good. So I would say we've been at this for, I haven't been doing it too long over here in the interest of this video, but if you can let it go for even a good 10 minutes, then go for it. Alright, I'm going to put pause on this and come back. I want to bring the beans, and I need both hands to do that. Alright, so I've added all the beans in here, and I'm kind of just mixing it all up with the flavor, with the base in here. We don't cook it too long this way. This is just to sort of blend all the flavors together. And then over here I have water filling up in this bowl. I probably don't need as much, but let's see. Typically you want to cover, this is a pressure cooker that I'm using, so you want to cover all the beans and then some, a little bit over that. So like 1.5 times, or let's see what this looks like. Because you don't want it to be too watery, but you also want enough water so that the pressure cooker can cook them, and then you don't sort of have mush at the end of it. I actually think this is plenty. So I basically covered up the beans and then some. Let's see. So I would say, 1.5 times the amount of beans. And then I'm going to put the lid on. And I love, love, love this pressure cooker. So I've turned it on to 2, which is the higher setting, locked it, put the flame all the way up to high, and then I'm going to leave this here till it starts to whistle, at which point we're going to reduce it all the way down, and I'll talk about that when we get there. So see you in a little bit. So this is starting to whistle. So what I'm going to do now is lower it all the way down. The key here is you want it to continue to be under pressure, but just barely. So you want to continue to have the whistling, but not at a high speed or a high flame. So you can see it's just between the 2 and the low. And then we're going to set the timer for 24 minutes. And we're going to let this stay under pressure, low pressure, for 24 minutes. Okay, so the timer's gone off. It's been 24 minutes. I'm going to turn off the stove and release the pressure. So once that is fully released, this will unlock, the pot will unlock, and then I'll be able to open it up and show you what the next steps are. Okay, so I opened it up, and it's pretty good looking right away, but we're still going to, we're not done yet. This is just it's kind of like you can think of this as just being boiled. The first thing you want to check for is that the beans are cooked or, soft. So you can kind of mush some of them to add a little bit of thickness to this gravy. But essentially what we're going to do now is turn the stove back on, and we're going to simmer. So I'm going to turn the stove to about medium to medium low, so between 3 and 4, I guess, and mine goes up to a 6. And then I'm going to grab a spoon, which I probably should have had ready, and go into my garam masala, and I'm not going to add a lot because, again, I want my kids to be able to eat it and I don't want to add too much spice, but garam masala really adds a nice flavor. You can also make your own, which is really, really easy and great to do. If you have a little, spice grinder, garam masala really is just a combination of cloves, cardamom, peppercorn, cloves, cardamom, peppercorn, coriander, whole coriander, not the powdered version that we used in this, but whole, and just grind it down. And then you used to use a pinch of that, and obviously it's really, really fresh. So now I just want to thicken this a little bit, and I want the beans and the liquid to be not so separate. You see right now the beans are really separate from the liquid, and I want it to be a nice thickness so that when you take a spoonful of this, you actually get not just beans, but you also get the gravy with it. So that happens by letting this simmer to a nice consistency, and this is again something you're going to have to keep an eye on. I'm going to set a timer for about 6 minutes and then come back and check on it and stir it some more. So we'll be right back. So I let this simmer for I actually put it on for another 6 minutes, and so this is about 12 to 15 minutes of simmering. And now you can see that when you get a spoonful of lentil, you have gravy with it that's staying there. So that's getting nice and thick. I'm actually going to grab a regular teaspoon so you can see what I'm talking about. Do you see that? Doesn't that look absolutely delicious on white rice? I'm going to taste some. Perfect. So this same recipe, the base, the onions, the tomatoes, the ginger garlic paste, can all be used with red kidney beans, chickpeas, black-eyed peas, pinto beans. All of these are the heavy beans, and they all will they'll be much better and softer if you soak them overnight. I'm actually going to turn this off. I think I'm happy with the way this has turned out. Another thing that you can do just to add some extra flavor and color is to cut up some cilantro, fresh cilantro, and sprinkle it over the top just for a final garnish. And so like I said, you can use this with any one of those heavy beans that I talked about. Just make sure to soak them overnight in enough water to allow them to double up and expand. So you definitely want to double up the water to the quantity of the beans. I think 1 cup is a good portion of beans to start with. This is actually 2 cups because everybody in my house loves these beans a lot, and they'll go fast. So 1 cup of beans to 2 cups of water to soak overnight, and then drain the water in the next morning, and and then just clean them out one more time, rinse them through fresh water, and then happy cooking. And I would love to hear from you and let me know how this turned out for you. Take care and have a wonderful day.